Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Today is the day 20 for our PCNSA series. So in my previous video, I have covered about the source NAT and I have covered all the parts of it like the static one, the dynamic one, the PAT. I have covered everything. So if you want to know about SNAT, I will recommend you to please watch my previous video, which I am going to link it to I button, or maybe you can check the description box of this video. So in this particular video, we are going to discuss about destination NAT. What are the type of destination NAT and what are the use cases, how exactly it works, and we are going to also see how we can configure a static destination NAT in practical. Okay. So I'll recommend you to please watch this video till the end so that you can understand destination NAT, because it is very frequently used in industries. So I'll highly recommend you to watch till the end. And also I'll request you to please subscribe my channel and hit the bell icon so that you never miss any video from me. So without any further delay, let's get started. So friends, first of all, we'll understand what is a destination NAT basically. Okay. Now in destination NAT, as we have already understood about the NAT, network address translation. So at layer 3, we have something called as source IP address and we have something called as destination IP address, right? So when we are changing the source IP address, it is known as SNAT, which is source NAT. When we are changing the destination NAT, which is basically DNAT. So with the help of this diagram, we'll try to understand. Now in this diagram, if you try to understand this, the source is a public IP address and destination is also a public IP address. But when we perform the NAT, we have never changed the source IP address. We have changed the destination IP address. Now we are going to understand what is the use case of destination NAT, but to summarize what is destination NAT, when we are changing the destination IP address, that is called as destination NAT. As simple as that. Okay. So let's understand what is the use case, guys. So friends, let's understand the type of destination NAT and what is the use case, and also we'll try to understand how it works with the help of this particular diagram. Okay, so before we understand with the diagram, let's understand the type of destination NAT which is available in Palo Alto firewall or in real time as well, right? So we have static destination NAT, dynamic destination NAT, port forwarding. Okay, so whatever that type that you have seen in SNAT, we have same kind of destination NAT types as well, right? We have static source NAT, dynamic source NAT, then PAT. Same way we have in destination NAT as well. Now with the help of this particular diagram, we'll try to understand the use case and how exactly it works. Okay. So friends, when the user initiates the traffic from inside to outside, or basically from inside network going to internet, during that time we will be using SNAT. The reason being because the internal traffic cannot be routed towards public internet, right? Same way, if we try to understand the opposite way, if the outside user is trying to access our internal resources. Now, why they are going to access our internal resources? The first question is this. Now, if we have a website which is hosted inside our organization, and that is a public website which needs to be accessed by the public user or an internet user, in that case, they will come to our network and access the website. Now, most of the websites will have their IP address in a private IP address, because not only one server is serving that request. Let's say, for an example, if you try to understand about Google, there are millions of traffic which comes to Google every single minute, right? or seconds if you talk about. So one server cannot serve that particular results or cannot handle the traffic. So for that we have multiple clusters of server, and all those servers will have IP address, not the public IP address. Maybe they will have a private IP address. Okay, so if they want to access the private IP address, so if they are coming from outside to inside and they are coming from public internet to private internet, they will not have routes to it. So we have to change this public IP address to private IP address so that they can access the web server. Now how exactly it happens, let's try to understand in this particular way. So let me rub this out, okay, and let's try to understand with this particular diagram. Okay, so a little faster. Let's done. Okay, now as you can see on internet, this PC is there. Now how a PC will be on internet? Because this PC will be having an ISP connection towards the internet, and for PC, the PC will be NATed at the ISP end. So if you have taken an Airtel connection or AT&T connection or a Telstra connection or something in your local country, right? So they might do a NAT. So on internet, you will be seen as a public IP address, not your private IP address. Maybe if you are connected to Wi-Fi network, you are not seen as a private IP address. You are seen as a public IP address, right? So in this particular example, if you try to see, this PC is having a public IP address. So this becomes the source, right? You can see here. Now, if you want to reach google.com, you should reach to public IP address, right? So your mapping will be there, like www.google.com. It will have some public IP address. You can take an example of this IP address. Now, if your destination is a public IP address, which is nothing but this one, then the internet will route the traffic and it comes to your organization, right? Now, once it hits your organization, your server or the web server will have private IP address. So we don't need to change the source IP address here because it's coming from public, right? Now we have to change the destination IP address because the server is configured in a private IP address, right? So once it hits our organization, we are going to change this particular IP address to this so that the traffic reaches to the server. Now once the server replies the traffic, this IP will become this IP address, and then the request will forward it to this particular PC, right? If you summarize everything, try to understand. Now once the PC initiate on the internet, source will be public IP address, destination will be public IP address. Once it reaches to organization, okay, then your source become as it is, like public, destination become private IP address because your web service will be configured in a private IP address, okay. And once the web server replies or return or basically responds to that particular traffic, the source will become a private, destination public. It reaches to Palo Alto, right? At Palo Alto, source will become public IP address because it will unnat from this to this, and destination will become the PC IP address. Okay, so this is how whole destination NAT works in this particular way. Okay, now if the public PC or a public user wants to, or public IP address want to access the private servers in that case will perform destination NAT. But in source NAT, what was happening? Our internal user wants to access public. So it is basically opposite of source NAT. Okay. Now let's understand in the practical how exactly we can configure this. Okay. So friends, let's configure static destination NAT in our lab. Okay. So let's move on to the lab and let's configure destination NAT over there. Okay. So this will be our topology, and I'm taking the same topology what I have took for PAT. What we have done in our last lab, which is already configured here. I've just added few of the things like DMZ interface and the NAT configuration. So we have already configured this interface, this interface, this interface. We have to configure this and we have to configure a NAT. That's all. Okay. Now let's understand by seeing all this topology how the things are, and we are going to start and repeat everything again so that you guys understand this topology properly. So this interface is our inside zone, okay, where internal users are connected. This will be our outside zone, okay, and this is our DMZ zone where our web server is connected. Okay. Now the target of this particular lab is this one. So one of the PC which is on internet, he is having a public IP address. Okay. Web server is having a private IP address. Okay. Now the PC will travel through this internet and hit our network. Okay. So he is supposed to hit this particular IP address, which is a public IP address, and we are going to perform a NAT. So we are going to change the public IP address to a private IP address, right? So once we change it, the traffic will hit the web server, and once the replies goes, it will get unnat and the response will go to this particular PC. So this is our requirement which we wanted to do in this particular lab. Okay. Now what I will suggest you, take a screenshot of this. Okay. Put at the side of your screen. If you can take a screenshot and put it aside, you can take it and you can put it aside, and you are going to watch the configuration so that you can match it. Okay. So that it will be easier to understand at that particular moment. Okay. So let's hit the Palo Alto dashboard. So this will be our dashboard. Okay. Now if you go to network, I just wanted to show you that the interfaces are already configured. The inside interface and the outside interface are already configured. Okay. We just need to configure the DMZ interface. Okay. So let's try to configure that. So I'll just make it as layer 3. And virtual router will be default, and we'll create a new security zone which is DMZ, right? And we are going to configure an IP address which is nothing but 192.168.20.10, if I am not wrong, 20.10, right? So I'll just put it as /24. Let's click OK. So we are done now. Let's commit this, and after we do the commit, we'll try to understand how the NAT works over here. Okay. Now in real time environment or in real world environment, what exactly happens is, let's say you are working with Airtel ISP or maybe AT&T or maybe Telstra, right? So in this particular case, what happens is, whenever you take a internet connection or you want a static IP address from internet, from service provider like ISPs, right? So once you take it, you will get an IP address, something like this. So let's say for an example, 200.1.1.0/30, right? Now one of those IP address, so in 30 you will get only 2 IP address, 1 and 2. 3 is broadcast and 4 is a network, right? So you cannot use this, or 0 you cannot use it, right? Now the usable IP address is 1 and 2. Okay. Now one will be configured at your end and two will be configured at the ISP end. After that, you don't have any IP address. So let's say if you have a web server and you don't want to use the interface IP address to do the NATing, okay? So in that particular case, you need a new IP address. So you will go to ISPs and you will ask. So they will provide you something like this. 1.4/29. So 29 will have 6 public IP address. Now this IP address can be used in some other purpose, but one of those IP address you can use it for your web hostings or web server hosting towards public internet. So let's say in this particular network I will use 5, 6, 7, whatever that I wanted to use, I can use it. Now the thing over here is, let's try to understand the whole scenario in this particular case, which is there in this topology. Okay. Now if you see, this is our IP address which is assigned here, and this is the IP address which is assigned over here. Fine. Now what is the network over here? 172.29.129.0/24. So one of the IP I have taken from this particular subnet here, and one of the IP I have taken. Now I have whole range, right? I can take any IP from this particular range /24. I can take 150, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever the free IPs are there, I can take any of the IP address. So I have that freedom here. You will not get in real time environment that you will get /24. It will be too costly for you guys. So you will not get that chance, right? So I have taken one of the IP address from this and I am NATing this one to the private IP address of the web server. So this is how exactly I have compared the real environment with the existing topology environment so that you guys can understand what we are going to do. Okay. So friends, let's understand and let's configure this particular requirement in our Palo Alto firewall and see how it works. Okay. So let's go into the Palo Alto. Now the change that we have committed for DMZ, we have already configured. Now it is committed successfully. Now let's go to policy and let's configure the NAT policy first, and then we'll go to security policy. Okay. So let's configure the NAT. So I'm configuring a NAT which is from outside to DMZ, right? So the traffic which is coming from outside interface from this, and it is going to our DMZ zone, right? Now let's put the original traffic. Now whenever we think about original traffic, how the traffic should look like when it hits to Palo Alto firewall, like, so if my source IP address, let's say one of the IP address from internet, so we are not sure what kind of IP address will be coming from the internet, so I will expect any. So if I am expecting a range of IP address, I can mention, but from internet we cannot define any range. We have to say any because it's internet, right? And the destination will be our this IP address, which is a public IP address of the server, right? 129.150. So this is basically our original IP address. So let's try to put that over there. So my source will be outside. Okay. My source address will be any. So let it be any. Destination will be 172.129.150, right? Now what will be my destination zone over here? Now this destination zone will also be outside. Now confusions will get started over here. let's try to understand with the help of packet flow what we are having. Okay, so I've taken a screenshot from packet capture, and let's try to understand here. Okay, so I'll just put this into this topology so that we can understand better way. Okay, so let's try to put this here. Maybe I will just put it like this. Okay, now what was my source over here? My source was NE, and my destination was 172.29.129.150, right? This was. Now whenever a packet comes to Palo Alto firewall, it extracts the information. So it is extracting the layer 2, layer 3 and layer 4 information. Everything is fine. And after that it comes to a slow path because it's a new connection. So it will come to slow path. Now if you see the forwarding lookup, or if I want to zoom this one little bit more, you guys can understand this way. Okay, so if you try to understand the forwarding lookup, get egress interface by seeing the L3 route and L4 route. Now here, before the NAT happens, like the NAT has not happened till now, but I am looking at the routing table. If I am looking at the routing table, if source is NE, means it is a public IP address, so it is outside, right? And destination is also a public IP address, so it will also in the routing table it is outside. See, you can see here from L3 route and L4 route. So we'll try to find out. So before finding out what is the source zone, what is the destination zone, both will be same, right? If you try to understand that, if once it hits, it has not been NAT. Before NAT, both source and destination are pointing to outside, so it will be outside. That is the reason whenever we configure the destination NAT, the both source and our destination zones will be outside only. Okay, then we are going to translate the source NAT or destination NAT. We are going to translate destination NAT, right? So we are going to change the destination IP address. So to what IP address? 192, which is 192.168.20.100. Okay, that's all. Now if you see the statement, if somebody from internet is coming from outside to outside, means anyone hitting 150, it will get translated to 20.100, right? So you guys understood the logic behind why we have given outside, because before NAT routing lookup will happen. That is the reason it is outside. So don't get confused of it. Okay, now let's configure security as well, security rule. So let's configure from outside to DMZ. Now my source will be outside, and here also my source address can be anything. We cannot do anything on this. Okay, what will be my destination zone? Now if you try to see here, after here the L3 lookup will happen, and after that NAT will perform again second forwarding look to get the final result. So after he performs the NAT, so after NAT is getting performed, the destination NAT is getting performed, the security check will happen, right? So security check will happen during that time. Once the NAT happens, then he checks the routing lookup again. So here routing lookup will happen, here routing lookup will happen. So here after the NAT is happening, the routing lookup will happen. So he'll get to know that it is going to DMZ now. So once the NAT happens, he get to know about that it is going to DMZ, right? So that is the reason the destination zone will be DMZ over here. Okay, and here we have to put the public IP address, which is 172.29.129, which is I guess 150, right? So 29.150. Okay, here we have to, this area or this particular part is post NAT, right? And in destination address it is pre-NAT address. Okay, now you guys need to find out why we have to put pre-NAT over here, why we have to put post-NAT over here. Okay, the reason is very simple. You guys need to find it out and let me know in the comments so that I'll give you a right answer of it. Okay, so let's try allowing everything right now. Okay, so I've allowed everything from there, and let's commit that. So while the configuration is getting committed, let's configure the web server. So web server is nothing but it's a router. So we just need to configure the router as web server. So we'll do a configuration. We'll configure an IP address, which is 192, or I'll just change the fairness as 14. It looks fine, I guess. So 20.100, okay, 255, 255, 255.0, no shut, exit, IP route 0.0, okay, .0.0.0.0.0.0, okay, it is 192.168.20.10, okay, exit. Okay, I have to I'll change the host name as well, web server. Okay, so exit, and also we have to turn on the HTTP server. Okay, HIP HTTP authentication local. Okay, user name, let's say I'll just put Palo Alto. Okay, privilege level 15, password Palo Alto, same. Okay, and this is it. We'll do a right configuration and we'll try to see whether we are listening on the right port or not. So control, so I guess it is not showing me that. I guess it is control plane host open ports. You can see that it is listening on HTTP, so we are good, right? So my target is to access on 150. It will get translated to this and I should be able to access this web server. So let's go to putty and let's log into the firewall 143. Yes, admin and the password. Let's try to change the settings so that you guys can see. Apply. Okay. Admin 143, right? This is 143 itself, right? So admin and the password is this one. Okay, so let me try it again with the duplicate session. Let's try with admin and the password. Okay, so it's working now. Let's try from that particular PC. Okay, let's try to access, which is 172. Okay, 1 minute. 172.29.129.150, right? So let's try to access. You guys can see that I'm getting a prompt, and let's see source session all. Okay, now as you can see friends, that it is the source is 182 and it is trying, and the source is remains the same. There is no change in the source, but destination what we are trying, which is 150 on port number 80, it is getting translated to 220.100. so if I put the username password, which is Palo Alto and Palo Alto, as you can see that it is connected to web server, which is the correct server here. Now the destination NAT has a key thing, which is basically when we create a NAT policy. Okay, so when we create a NAT policy, why we put outside in the rule, and when we create security policy, why we put outside to DMZ. Okay, and why it is given as the destination as the public IP address. So I have explained about this, but you need to find out why we are giving a public IP address. You guys need to comment in this particular video, and I will just give you right answer what exactly why we have to do it. Okay, now this is what I wanted to cover in this particular video, because it is going long. I cannot cover the dynamic and the port forwarding in this particular video, so we are going to do in another video. Okay, so this is what needs to be covered in this particular video. Thank you so much for watching till the end, and also I'll request you to please subscribe my channel and hit the bell icon. If you have any suggestion related to my video, you can give it to emails, or you can reach out to me on instant message through Instagram, Facebook or something. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next.